Single people in today's culture seem obsessed with avoiding divorce. I would suggest to you that if, instead of avoiding divorce, you obsess over creating a happy, healthy marriage, that whole divorce thing would take care of itself. Hey, this is Todd. Welcome to the Thrive Singles Podcast. Whether you're single again or still single, stop hating being single and learn to thrive. And welcome back. To all of you newcomers to the podcast, glad to have you here. And to all of you who tune in regularly, glad you're back again. And to everyone who's liked or shared the podcast, thank you so much for helping spread the word. Now, on to today's topic. Good ways and bad ways to avoid divorce. Single people in today's culture seem obsessed with avoiding divorce. This goes for single men and single women of different age groups, different religious traditions, different nationalities. They also seem obsessed with themselves and obsessed with sex, but those are issues for another day. I would like to suggest to you that an obsession with creating a happy, healthy marriage would be a far more useful and more healthy obsession, and that if people would spend their time pursuing that whole divorce thing would take care of itself. And for more on that, I suggest you go back and read some of my past posts about marriage on thrivesingles.com. But I can think of at least two wrong ways people try to avoid divorce. One was more popular in times past, and one is more popular today, but both are still being practiced, and it's a shame. Back in the olden days, actually not that long ago, people avoided divorce by staying in bad marriages. And when you think about it, to a degree, it's understandable. I mean, people stayed in awful marriages because of the children, because of divorce being hard to get, financial considerations, societal expectations, and just not wanting to look like or feel like a failure. Now we understand that it's debatable whether children are better off in a bad marriage or better off after a divorce. It largely depends on the degree of conflict between the parents and whether abuse is involved. Of course, if there is abuse, the children are far better off without the abusive parent around. That change is a good thing. Other changes are not so good, though. Today, divorces can be no fault and easy to obtain. Societal expectations have shifted tremendously. And there's not anywhere near as much stigma or a stigma of failure attached to divorcees. In fact, we've made it so easy to divorce that people give up on marriages for common, petty reasons. They give up way too easily because they can. They have an easy out. Today, people avoid divorce by just not getting married. They more and more opt out and just opt to live together, or just date and have sex with a minimal commitment or no commitment at all. That's become not only an option, but unfortunately, all too often it's the default option. Now, this might be popular, but it's a terrible idea. The problem is that people think they'll somehow escape heartbreak by not getting married. The truth is, they might avoid a divorce, but the emotional fallout of breaking off a sexual relationship can be just as devastating, especially if they've been together long term or have lived together. Plus, this often leads to a pattern over the years or even decades of cycle after cycle of falling in love, loosely pair bonding, and then painfully breaking up. Sex was given to us by God as a strong bonding agent. It releases powerful chemicals that help us attach to each other. By sharing that with someone, then breaking up with them, and then repeating that process over and over, people get immune to that bonding, and they teach themselves to not tightly bond with their next partner. As a result, people trade the possible heartbreak of divorce for a series of heartbreaks and a decreased ability to form a lifelong bond. So, in my opinion, neither of those ways of avoiding divorce are very good. The old way doomed people to miserable marriages. The new way dooms people to endless cycles of infatuation and heartbreak and teaches them to never fully bond. There's a better way. You see, we've been sold a lie. We've been sold this myth that if we find the right person, somehow that will lead to, quote, happily ever after, end quote. And we've been sold another insidious lie that people believe about marriage. People believe that if two people love each other, they'll somehow just magically figure it all out. The result of believing these myths and lies is that there are way too many miserable marriages and way too many needless divorces. The truth is, if you want to avoid divorce, marriage is something you have to be prepared for beforehand, and it's something you have to work at once you're in it. Think about it. Is there anything worthwhile in life that you automatically become good at without working hard to get good at it? Did you pick up your first baseball bat or golf club and just start hitting home runs or hitting holes in one? Were you good at your job the day they hired you? Or did you need some education, some guidance, and some training to become good at it? It's the same with marriage. There are things you need to know and skills you need to develop to be happily married. And once you're married, you'll both need to put a lot of effort into it. So do the work. Gain knowledge, read books, take courses, find mentors. Start learning what it takes to have a great marriage now while you're still single. Another way to avoid divorce is to not live together before getting married. It doesn't help. In fact, studies show that people who live together first have a slightly higher rate of divorce. Now, that gap has narrowed in some newer studies, but you still have a better chance of avoiding divorce if you don't live together first. Now, I don't have studies to back up this one, but I do believe that you have a better chance of avoiding divorce if you're not sexually active before you get married. And here's my reasoning. Having sex before you get married starts bonding you to someone before you know them well enough to know whether or not there's someone that would make a good spouse for you. And once you start having sex, you willingly turn a blind eye to any red flags or any bad thing about them because you don't want to ruin your good time. And besides the practical concerns, as Christians, we understand that this is God's way. Sex is for married people. Some people claim that you need a test drive first. I reject that idea. I deal with that in an episode from March 2018 I titled Sexual Compatibility. Go back, give that a listen, or go to thrivesingles.com and read the article. So, till next time, remember, divorce is awful, and it is something you want to avoid if at all possible. I know, I've been through it. But as with anything in life worth doing, marriage is worth pursuing, but there will be some risk. But you can give yourself the best chance of avoiding divorce by preparing. While you're still single, learn about what it takes to make a great marriage. Working at it. Marriage takes work. You can't get married and just coast and expect to stay happily married. Not living together first. According to research, it increases your odds of divorce. Staying sexually pure. This helps you to not bond with someone prematurely, and it's God's way. And as always, till next time, thrive on. I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. See you next week. Till then, be sure to subscribe and go check out my extensive archive of past posts at thrivesingles.com. And thrive on.
Whoa, thrive. Yeah, come alive. There's more to life. You gotta grow, you gotta thrive. Whoa, whoa, you gotta thrive. There's more to life than to just survive.